there was this really good article yesterday that Chuck Baldwin wrote, Pastor Chuck Baldwin, and this article is called Get Off the Sinking Ship, and in it he's talking about, he wrote an article on November 21st called This Pastor Proves My Point, and that article that he wrote on November 21st, he got a big backlash from it, and so he wrote about that backlash yesterday in this one called Get Off the Sinking Ship, and he said that his article created a firestorm of outrage and venom from hundreds of pastors and so-called Christians. And he says, it was a rude awakening for me, for sure. I have long maintained that the vast majority of today's pastors and church members are smugly content in abject apathy and indifference. However, after the vehement reaction to the above-mentioned column, the one that he previously wrote on November 21st, I can now state dogmatically that the problem is actually much, much worse than I realized. Today's churchmen are not merely content to not being involved. They are absolutely committed to not being involved. It goes much deeper than apathy. It is apostasy. So he's just trying to make the point that there's brainwashing going on out there, and so these are some quotes that he got from some so-called pastors, and this one pastor tells Chuck Baldwin, if federal agents or troops came to my house and put my wife on the kitchen table and raped her, Romans 13 tells me I could not interfere. And then another so-called pastor said, another so-called pastor said, if government forces came to my home intent on harming my wife and children, I would not resist. I would simply tell my family to run. And then another pastor said, America's founding fathers were rebels against God. They had no right to fight a war for independence. Subjection to a king, even a tyrannical one, is God's will. And then another one says, anyone who resists civil government is going to hell. And then another one says, there is no such thing as natural law, and anyone who promotes it is of the devil. And so Chuck Baldwin says, truly did Jesus say, can the blind lead the blind? Shall they not both fall into the ditch? That is exactly what is happening in America today. The blind are leading the blind into the ditch of tyranny and oppression. So I just really like that article. I just read some excerpts there, but it just goes to show that there's a real life war going on, against the truth, against true Christians, and obviously that's these so-called pastors that are upset at what Chuck Baldwin said, have got it wrong. You have a God-given right to self-defense, and the answer to 1984, 1776, we have God-given rights of life, liberty, and property and privacy, and nothing can infringe on those rights, and so these guys who are saying, oh, you got to obey the government no matter what, that's, false, because when the government infringes on your rights, they become criminal, and so you're not, anyway, so you guys know what I'm trying to say here is...
Well, I mean, try telling that to, telling that... Well, let me just say,
token that just real quick, Jay, before you make your point. It's like, what if the government tells you to do something that violates God's commandments, or something that causes you to sin? Would they simply say, "Oh, well, you got to obey the government"? Well, then now basically they're saying the government is God, and we should obey the government that is God, and now that it is their idol, and they say that goes before God Himself. I mean, that's really what I gather in a short point on that. But go ahead, Jay.
Oh, I was just going to say that, go ahead and try telling that to the disciples that were brought before the I think it was the council brought before the government, basically told to stop preaching the gospel of Christ, and if they basically threatened, I believe, with going to jail. And they said, sorry, we can't do that. We're God first, man second, basically, is the kind of paraphrase. They got to listen to God before they will man. So try telling that to them. I mean, try telling that to Moses when he went to confront Pharaoh. Oh, don't question the government. Ooh, that's a sin. He would have been in the wrong to throw all those plagues at the Egyptians. So I mean, it's really just a cop out. It's really it's really what Jesus was saying about obeying the government was really just like general rules and laws of the land, like not trying to purposely cause rebellion just for rebellion's sake or just for a carnal cause. But if it has to do with your family, it has to do with God, you better believe that comes first for the government. Anyways, folks, we got a break coming up here. We'll be right back on We Still Believe in about 3 minutes. Stay tuned.